The first-class cabin was a cocoon of muted grays and hushed whispers. The air was dry and smelled faintly of expensive leather and lukewarm coffee. Clara Vance was on her way to a conference in Dubai, a trip that represented the pinnacle of her career. As the lead architect on the new global sustainability initiative for her firm, she was not just presenting a project. She was presenting a new philosophy. Her work was a testament to her belief that true innovation was sustainable innovation. She had spent countless nights meticulously crafting her presentation, the slides a symphony of data and design. She felt a profound sense of purpose. She was seated in a window seat, trying to ignore the man across the aisle. His name was Sterling Thorne, a hedge fund manager whose face was a familiar sight on financial news channels. He was loud and entitled, a caricature of the very corporate excess her work sought to reframe. He had already complained about the temperature of his champagne, the quality of the in-flight entertainment system, and the speed of the Wi-Fi. He spoke into his phone, his voice a booming intrusion into the peaceful cabin. "I am telling you, Mark, the deal is going to close tomorrow. I have my people ready. We are going to corner the market on this. It is a gold mine. You do not care what the ethical implications are. Money is money." His words grated on Clara. They were a direct contradiction to everything she stood for. She tried to tune him out, putting on her noise-canceling headphones and attempting to review her presentation one last time. But his voice was relentless. "And yes, I am sure the new regulations are a nuisance, but we will find a way around them. We always do. A few phone calls to the right people, a little creative accounting, and we are in the clear. It is just the cost of doing business. You know how it is." Clara took a deep breath, trying to recenter herself. She could feel the frustration building inside her, a slow, hot burn. She was about to present her life's work, a project designed to make the world a better place, while this man openly bragged about exploiting its weaknesses. The flight attendant, a kind-faced woman named Elena, came by to offer more drinks. Sterling's voice, which had been temporarily silenced, flared up again. "Oh, finally, more of this lukewarm water. Give me another bottle of that champagne, and make sure it is cold this time. You understand it should be ice cold?" He waved his hand at her dismissively. Elena smiled politely, her professionalism a shield against his rudeness. Clara watched the interaction with a growing sense of unease. Then, the true incident began. Elena returned with the champagne, a perfectly chilled bottle on a tray. Sterling took the bottle and examined it with a sneer. "You know, for a first-class ticket, one would expect a little more effort. This is just pathetic. Is your entire job to be incompetent?" Elena's smile wavered for a moment, but she held her composure. "I apologize, sir. I have done my best to accommodate your requests." "Your best is not good enough," he said, and with a sudden, vicious motion, he pushed the bottle back onto her tray. The tray wobbled, and a glass of juice from another passenger's order spilled onto Elena's pristine uniform. The liquid stained her white shirt in a large orange splotch. Sterling did not even notice. He just went back to his phone call, chuckling. "I will be speaking to your manager about this," he said, not even looking up. "You are clearly not suited for this job," the passengers nearby gasped. A murmur of outrage rippled through the cabin. Elena's face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and hurt. She quickly cleaned up the mess and retreated to the galley, her shoulders slumped. That was the moment something snapped inside Clara. She was not just a passenger anymore. She was a witness. She was an architect of a better world, and this man was a symbol of the very thing she was fighting against. His casual cruelty, his complete disregard for another person's dignity, was a violation. Clara stood up from her seat, her movements deliberate and slow. She took off her headphones and placed them on the seat. She walked across the aisle, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm in her chest. Sterling was still on his phone, oblivious to the silence he had created. She stood directly in front of him, her shadow falling over his lap. He looked up annoyed. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice dripping with arrogance. "I am on a very important business call." Clara did not say a word. She looked him directly in the eye, her gaze unwavering. She saw a man who had never been told no, a man who believed his money and status made him untouchable. For a split second, she hesitated. Then, with all the power of her accumulated rage and a decade of standing up for what was right, she raised her hand and delivered a sharp, loud slap to his face. The sound echoed through the silent cabin, a crack that broke the spell of his entitlement. The phone fell from his hand and clattered to the floor. The red mark on his cheek was instant and stark against his pale skin. He looked at her, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. You hit me, he stammered, his voice no longer loud, but a thin, pathetic squeak. That, Clara said, her voice a low, fierce whisper, was for Elena. A few of the other passengers started to applaud. The flight crew rushed over, their faces a mix of concern and veiled satisfaction. The captain was called. Clara explained what had happened, calmly and without any emotion. She pointed out the stain on Elena's uniform, the broken glass on the floor, and the unrepentant man in the seat. Sterling was furious. He shouted. He threatened lawsuits. He demanded she be arrested. The flight crew, however, had the testimony of multiple witnesses. They confiscated his phone and informed him that he would be handed over to airport security upon landing. Clara was escorted to a different part of the cabin, but not before a few passengers gave her a thumbs up and a quiet thank you. When the plane landed, the drama was not over. Security met Sterling at the gate, and he was taken into custody for assault and creating a disturbance on a commercial flight. Clara gave a detailed statement to the authorities along with several other passengers. She gave her name, her firm, and her destination. She thought that would be the end of it. She was wrong. The incident, or more specifically, the video of the incident, went viral. One of the passengers, a young man who had been filming the altercation, posted it online. The title of the video was "Corporate Bully Gets His Comeuppance at 30,000 Feet." It showed Sterling's loud conversation, his abuse of the flight attendant, and Clara's swift, decisive slap. The sound of the slap caught on camera was a satisfying punctuation mark. Oh. The internet, with its swift and merciless justice, went to work. They found Sterling's name, his company, and his face. They identified him as the infamous Sterling Thorne, the man who had made his fortune on the backs of unethical deals. A deep dive into his company's public records revealed a history of environmental violations, labor disputes, and questionable financial practices. The social media storm was immense. Hashtag Sterling Thorne was trending for days. His phone number was leaked. His email inbox was flooded with angry messages. Clara Vance, on the other hand, was an instant hero. The internet celebrated her as a champion of the underdog, a woman who had stood up for a flight attendant against an arrogant millionaire. Her firm, initially shocked by the negative publicity, was quick to realize the potential. They issued a statement praising Clara's moral courage and unwavering commitment to ethical conduct. Her presentation in Dubai, which she had delivered with renewed conviction, was a smash hit. She was no longer just the lead architect. She was the face of the company's new ethical image. For Sterling, the fallout was catastrophic. The video, watched millions of times, destroyed his reputation. His partners, fearing a public relations disaster, distanced themselves from him. His clients, many of whom were sensitive to public perception, pulled their accounts. His hedge fund, once a titan of the industry, collapsed under the weight of the scandal. He was not just fired, he was ostracized. He was forced to sell his assets to pay off his debts and the numerous lawsuits that were filed against him. He became a pariah in the world he had so gleefully exploited. The flight attendant, Elena, was hailed as a hero as well. She was offered a promotion and a public apology from the airline CEO. The airline, sensing a marketing opportunity, made her the face of their new employee wellness campaign. Her small act of dignity had been the spark that ignited a firestorm of change. As for Clara, she became a force of nature. The incident had given her a platform she could never have imagined. She used her newfound fame to speak about ethical business practices, sustainability, and the importance of standing up for what is right, no matter the personal cost. She was not just an architect anymore, she was a leader. She was a voice for a new generation of business people who believed that a profit motive and a moral compass were not mutually exclusive. In the ensuing years, Clara's star continued to rise. Her firm, now rebranded as Vance & Associates, became a global leader in sustainable architecture. She was sought after for keynote speeches and advisory roles on international committees. The slap was not just an event in her past. It had become a foundational moment in her personal mythology. It was the moment she had stopped being a quiet genius and became a public figure, a symbol of integrity, in an often unethical world. Her professional life was a testament to the idea that a single act of courage could create a ripple effect, turning a moment of chaos into a legacy of positive change. Meanwhile, Sterling Thorne's world had completely imploded. He faced criminal charges for the assault and civil lawsuits from both the airline and Elena. The legal battles drained what was left of his fortune. The luxurious home he had once owned was foreclosed, and his lavish lifestyle became a distant memory. The media, which had once glorified his financial acumen, now followed his decline with a morbid fascination, a constant reminder of his fall from grace. He was no longer invited to the exclusive parties and business retreats he had once dominated. He was alone, isolated by the very wealth and ego he had used to insulate himself from the world. His career, his reputation, and his fortune were all gone. Sterling Thorne was never heard from again in the world of high finance. He was relegated to the dustbin of corporate history, a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms. He was a man who thought his money made him invincible, but he was undone by a simple act of courage from a woman who knew that true power was not in wealth, but in conviction. Clara, on the other hand, continued to build her legacy. One sustainable project at a time, her career soaring to heights far beyond the 30,000 feet where his had ended.